What's up everyone, I'm CallumOnToast and you'd be forgiven for thinking this was a Master League video given the team I'm running, but no, this is actually in the Open Great League and I'm running 3 legendary Pokemon that can only be obtained if we caught them via research tasks and traded them down, making this a very rare trio of Pokemon to run together in the Open Great League. Now this was a really fun team to run, but I will say I made quite a lot of misplays, mostly due to overestimating Rayquaza's bulk, which sounds really silly because of course I know it's a glass cannon, but obviously when I've used Rayquaza in the past, Breaking Swipe had a guaranteed attack debuff, making up for that lack of bulk, but obviously Niantic completely ruined this Pokemon when they gave Breaking Swipe to Steelix because we all knew it was going to be nerfed the following season. To add insult to injury, I also used 2 Elite TMs on my Rayquaza, giving it Dragon Ascent as well as Breaking Swipe, only for Niantic to buff Aerial Ace like 2 weeks later, and probably being Rayquaza's preferred second move now, just because it is a lot more consistent to get to the Aerial Ace over that Dragon Ascent, but whatever, I'll stop being salty now and let's just get into the question of the day. Which Pokemon was previously your favourite Pokemon to run in the Go Battle League but has unfortunately been nerfed, making it no longer as viable as it once was? Let me know in the comment section down below, and with that being said, let's get into the battles now. Alright, so going into the first battle lead, Heatran into Azumarill. Now, Azumarill is a bit tricky to deal with this team. I'm going to say swap into my Giratina, and one great thing about Giratina is that you can at least live an Ice Beam here. The opponent doesn't farm to a play rough, so I'm going to let that go through. I'm now going to go for 1 extra Shadow Claw, go for the Shadow Ball, and the opponent is going to shield the first move, then swap into Serperior. Now, this is a very good matchup for us, but of course, with such a health disadvantage, we're just going to go for the Shadow Ball, and I will be happy to just let this move go through. Of course, I've got 2 Pokemon that aren't going to do particularly well up against that Azumarill, but I think if I save both my shields for my Rayquaza, we could still be okay here. So I'm going to let this move go through. We do wall everything they can possibly throw. They go for the Aerial Ace, doesn't do much damage. I'm going to go for the Earth Power, and then I will swap into my Rayquaza because, of course, Dragon Tail, Breaking Swipe, not going to deal much damage, but also we don't take that much damage from these bubbles, although they do, of course, do more damage this season than in previous seasons. I'm going to shield the Ice Beam. I don't want to go for a Dragon Ascent at this point, so I'm actually just going to double shield, continue to farm here. I might then go for the Breaking Swipe after maybe 1 more Dragon Tail. This probably still won't quite take them out there, but I will be able to fully farm them down. The opponent's actually going to swap out instead, swap into their Talonflame, which does make sense. We go for 3 Dragon Tails here, throwing at good timing. Breaking Swipe, going to grab the final shield from the opponent. Unfortunately, we're not going to make it to a Dragon Ascent in this matchup, so I go for a second Breaking Swipe, and now I'm going to swap into my Heatran here, basically just forcing my opponent to throw their energy. The opponent's going to go for a Flame Charge. We do live that, and we can just barely live 1 more Incinerate. The opponent going to throw a charge move here, otherwise we would farm them down. Flame Charge takes us out, but now I can Dragon Tail, farm down the Talonflame, Dragon Tail, farm down the Azumarill, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to the opponent there. Into next, going to see Whiscash, obviously an awful lead for the Heatran, so I'm going to say swap into my Giratina, and typically Giratina was pretty good as I say swap here. As you can see, the opponent obviously core broken by Giratina as they come in with a Skeledirge, which behind on energy is an awful matchup for them, but there are of course very hard counters to Giratina, like most normal types or dark types, because we are running a triple ghost moveset. Now I thought about running Dragon Pulse, but honestly if you're going up against something like a Lickitung, you're going to lose that matchup anyways, so you might as well have Ominous Wind for that bait move, but I'm someone that doesn't really like to bait, so it didn't really come in that handy. We also didn't get any boosts either, but at this point I have Flip Switch. They come in with Azumarill, so not great for the Heatran either, but I do at least resist most of their charge moves. If they're running Hydro Pump, then fair play, but we're going to come in with the Rayquaza, and here you can see Skull does like nearly half our health. They get the attack drop, and then I should have been counting. This is actually just going to be a Mud Bomb, so that would not have done that much damage, but honestly, we do need to shield the Rayquaza here. We're going to go for another Breaking Swipe here. Breaking Swipe does get the attack drop. I'm just going to throw the next one straight away. If we get a second attack drop here, I should actually be able to live a Scald from this range now, so luckily for me, getting 2 attack debuffs there, they're going to swap back into the Azumarill, and I was like, oh my god, are they at the Hydro Pump already? But no, it's just an Ice Beam. We live that very comfortably. I'm going to overfarm here, and at this point, this Earth Power will be able to take out the Azumarill, and they're actually in farm down range for my Heatran there, so Heatran taking out the Whiscash, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to the opponent there. Into the next game, we see Clodsire in the lead. So I'm actually going to stay in initially, see if it is Mudshot or Poison Sting. It was Mudshot, unfortunately, so I had to get out of there. We're going to swap into the Giratina. We bait out on a load of Ninetales, which obviously isn't great for us, but this is where Giratina is pretty good as we grab a shield advantage, as the opponent isn't too quick to swap out. We're now going to let this move go through. Rayquaza, of course, would be completely destroyed by a load of Ninetales, so it is good to bait it out here. Now we come in with the Heatran. We can completely wall the energy here, so I'm just going to let this move go through, and I will be able to come out with an Earth Power loaded. Obviously, Dazzling Gleam is going to hit for some decent damage there, but it's still double resisted. They actually come in with a Quagsire instead of the Clodsire, so a bit unfortunate there, of course, because the Earth Power isn't super effective. But now I'm going to swap into my Rayquaza. I'm just going to shield this up, play it safe. It is the Stone Edge. Stone Edge would probably one-shot us, of course. Clodsire, pretty bulky Pokemon, but Rayquaza certainly has no bulk whatsoever. We're going to get the attack drop here, and I thought about no shielding, but honestly, I think the safe play is just a double shield. Now we can go for a full Dragon Tail farm down. I'm going to come out with nearly 2 Breaking Swipes loaded, so going to fire off the first one here. Probably going to grab the final shield from the opponent. Breaking Swipe coming through. They actually no-shield that. I'm going to swap into my Heatran, and unfortunately, oh, actually, no, never mind. It wasn't that game. The opponent is just going to concede the match there, and I'm able to take that game. But GG's to the opponent there. Into the next game, we see Whiscash in the lead once again. Going to say swap into my Giratina, and the opponent's going to stay in here, so probably don't have the best response. Probably going to chip me and then swap into what I'm assuming to be a Skarmory in the back, but I don't know. Let's see. We're going to go for the Shadow Ball. As I said, I don't really like baiting with Giratina, and here they do come in with the Skarmory, so of course, when you see a Whiscash, I mean, we didn't see Skarmory in the previous battle with a Whiscash, but it is very likely that there might be a Skarmory since there's such a strong core together. We're now going to make it to an ominous win, and from this range, it would KO, so we're actually going to grab a shield, well, both shields from the opponent, and I can very safely let this move go through. Save my shields for my Rayquaza, as I'm hoping they didn't have a strong response to the Giratina. Hopefully, they don't have a great response to my Rayquaza either, but we're going to let the move go through. They go for Scald, once again, dealing like half our health. Luckily for me, they didn't get the debuff, but they're going to swap into Annihilate. Now, this is a positive matchup for us. We're resisting counters. We also get the attack debuff this time around, but I'm still taking way more damage than I was expecting to take here. I thought I could just go for a full farm down, but actually I realized that probably won't happen, so I'm going to throw the charge move here. I should still make it to another Breaking Swipe though, right? No, we don't make it to the Breaking Swipe. And if the opponent's got back-to-back Mud Bombs, this is going to be game over. They go for the first Mud Bomb there, but they had a second Mud Bomb, and unfortunately, this is going to be game over. This will easily take us out. But unfortunately, the game just freezes here. Now, I made a community post mentioning that I got a lot of freezes. This is one of those games, and this is a game that I should have lost, but I actually got credited with a win. So that was really weird, and I do feel sorry for my opponent because they did outplay me in that battle. But there were also games where I won and then didn't get credited with the win at all. Some people said it's due to having party play active, and I did have it for the first few battles, but I also then left the party, closed the game, reopened it, and I still had some issues like that. So not really sure what's wrong with that. It's probably just because there's an event going on, and yeah, I mean, I'm not excusing it at all. It's really bad that, you know, it can't handle someone being in a party with someone or just playing the game whilst the sky's like a nice pink and blue color. But anyways, into the next battle, and we are going to see a swap into our Giratina here as they come in with a Bastiodon. Going to shield up the Stone Edge here, and they come back in with the Shadow Victory Bell. So the opponent running a very toxic team. They made it very easy for me as they just swapped into their Wigglytuff, which has an awful matchup up against Heatran. But here I'm actually able to make it to another charge move up against the Victory Bell. Ominous Wind takes them out from this range, and now I can just make it to an Earth Power with my Heatran very comfortably. And this, of course, double super effective. It will be enough damage from this range to take out the Bastiodon, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to the opponent there. Into the next game, we see Heatran into a Pelipper. So not great for us. Heatran could run Stone Edge though, so I'm going to stay in initially. I'm actually going to swap here, hoping the opponent throws straight away, which is not something I would recommend when you're going 2-turn up against 3-turn and throwing after 5. I would always recommend throwing after 7, as that is good timing. But anyways, I'm able to catch the resisted Weather Ball. Then I bait out a Bastiodon, which is also great for me because, of course, Rayquaza wants literally nothing to do with the Bastiodon in the back. So we're now going to shield this because I will be able to to make it to 2 more Shadow Balls, or at least that's what I'm thinking I will be able to do. So we're going to go for another Shadow Ball here. Once again, not baiting with my Giratina, and we are barely just able to make it to a 3rd Shadow Ball up against the Bastiodon. The opponent's going to fight for switch advantage, and I'm actually pretty happy with that. So I'll now come in with my Heatran, going to let this move go through, save my shield for my Rayquaza. I'm hoping with Bastiodon off the field, I should be able to take out whatever is left in the back, but we'll see. We go for a Magma Storm here. Could have possibly tried to go and farm them down there, but I didn't want to risk it. They're going to come in with a Medicham, which I haven't seen for quite a while, but unfortunately this is a matchup where if I was running Aerial Ace, this would be very comfortable, but I'm not sure that a Breaking Swipe will KO the Medicham from that range, so we're going to go for the Breaking Swipe here. I actually undercharged that slightly just so I can get some extra farm, but of course this Weather Ball, even debuff, still does some decent damage here. Now I think I can make it to the Dragon Ascent, but I'm not able to do so. From that range, I guess with that one extra Fire Spin, I think Breaking Swipe probably would have KO'd anyway, so definite misplay there. I thought I could have made it to the charge move, but Rayquaza is just so glassy, it doesn't get there, and unfortunately we lose a game that I probably should have been winning, so GG's to that opponent anyways. And into the next battle, we're going to see the opponent's going to Safe Swap into Dugong. Of course, I've got 2 dragons in the back. I'm not going to be swapping out here. I'm going to stay in, of course. They do have the access to Drill Run, which they're probably going to bait me anyways. Go for a double resisted Icy Wind, but I'm certainly going to respect the damage here. I'm going to shield this up. I'm going to double shield if I have to. They go for the Icy Wind bait, which is unfortunate. They're going to throw a second charge move here. I'm definitely going to double shield, and this time they do full send the Drill Run. So we are debuffed by 1 stage. I'm hoping Magma Storm with 1 extra Fire Spin will KO, but if it doesn't, I'm not going to let Heatran go down. I'm going to swap into my Giratina, catch the Drill Run. Possibly could have called it onto my Rayquaza, knowing that it would be double resisted, but we're going to bait out a Trevenant now. Giratina unfortunately does lose CMP. This is a Seed Bomb though, and Seed Bomb is resisted damage, but it does take out the Giratina from that range. We're now going to come back in with the Heatran, go for 3 Fire Spins. I thought about going for a full farm down there, but actually I want to preserve some of the health on my Heatran because I don't know what's in the back. But let's see what the opponent wants to do. Actually, no, I do know what's in the back. It was a Charge Bug because they led with it, so that's why I did preserve at least some of the health here. We're now going to go for the Magma Storm. Magma Storm does huge damage. We swap, we snipe with the Rayquaza, and the opponent's just going to concede the match there. So GG's to the opponent there. Into the next game, we see Heatran into a Lantern. So not a great lead whatsoever. Gonna Safe Swap into my Giratina, and the opponent's gonna respond with a Shadow Gligar. Now this is a matchup where I can get some sort of advantage, especially with a slight energy advantage. I go for the Shadow Ball, once again not baiting, and the opponent is gonna respect the damage. We are gonna see the opponent goes for an Aerial Ace here, and now they will be able to just barely outpace me to the next charge move before I make it to another Shadow Ball. If I baited there, I could have also thrown the Shadow Ball here on CMP. So once again, I am punished for not baiting, but I don't know why, I just don't like doing it. It feels like so unsatisfying when you do bait and the opponent's just going to let that go through. I feel like I'd rather they just shield my nuke move there. But anyways, I'm going to shield 1 move. The opponent recognizes that I will be able to fully Fire Spin farm them down there, so they swap out, not giving me any extra farm. We're going to come in with the Rayquaza, and at this point I can shield once. If they do go for the Thunderbolt, they're not going to make it to another charge move. I can go for the Dragon Tail farm down, and let's see what the opponent has in the back. The opponent's going to come in with a Shadow Charizard, so I'm going to go for 3 Dragon Tails here. Go for the Breaking Swipe. Breaking Swipe is going to grab the final shield from the opponent, but the opponent throws one more wing attack. They get the new mechanic there, so the Dragon Tail damage doesn't register, and you're going to see that's absolutely huge in this matchup because now Magma Storm doesn't quite take them out there. They're going to swap. We're able to snipe the Gligar, and if this is just a Dragon Claw, we will be able to live this very comfortably. But the opponent makes it to a Blast Burn in time, and if we just got that Dragon Tail through, we would have easily won that game. But unfortunately, the opponent's able to take me out with the Blast Burn and take that game. So GG's to the opponent there. Into the next game, we see the opponent's going to Safe Swap into a Goodra, which is quite a spicy Pokemon here. Once I land the resisted Magma Storm, I will now be able to let this go through. It's either a Muddy Water or a Power Whip. Either way, going to be resisted, and I can just Dragon Tail farm them down. Of course, Rayquaza will be going down to probably just 1 Charm or maybe 1 or 2 Powder Snows. But it doesn't matter here, we're just going to sacrifice it. I haven't had to use a shield, and I have maintained alignment, which is what I needed to do with this team, because of course they got a Shadow, a Alolan Ninetales, and the opponent's 3rd and final Pokemon is going to be a Nidorina, so quite a spicy pick as well. Unfortunately for the opponent, there's not a lot they can do here. Typically Nidorina will run dig, I believe. So they go for the dig there. That is neutral damage, but we can live 2 of them pretty comfortably, it looks like. And the poison stings, of course, resisted damage, so they're not really going to be able to fast move farm me down either. So I'm not even going to shield this. They go for the dig. I will be able to make it to a Shadow Ball before they can fully farm me down. We still got 2 shields remaining. The opponent recognizing there's nothing they can do, so they just concede the match there. So GG's to the opponent there. Into next game we see a defense from Deoxys, and this is pretty rough for us so far. I'm going to full stun the Shadow Ball. There's no point baiting this time because I'm not making it to 2 moves, and if I boost then all I do is actually just give them slightly more farm, which is worse for me. Excuse me there. We're now going to come back in with the Heatran. I'm actually not going to shield this. I'm just going to save both my shields for my Rayquaza once again and hope that it can do some things, but like I've said before, like Breaking Swipe, since it has been nerfed, it's just not very consistent. I'm going to let Heatran get fairly low here. I don't want them to just farm me down, but at this point, I will be able to swap out, so I'm going to do exactly that. We're going to come in with the Rayquaza, and the opponent comes in with a Talonflame. Now, I think my only win condition here is if the opponent goes and baits with a Flame Charge, so we do get the attack drop this time, which is good for me. I'm going to let this move go through, and the opponent is going to bait with the Flame Charge, but one more Dragon Tail barely doesn't take them out there, and taking that boosted, well, I guess regular Incinerate damage is really going to cost me here. And as well, we don't get the debuff, so the opponent can just counter, farm me down, they can counter, farm down the Heatran, and unfortunately we do lose that game. But GG's to the opponent there. Into next game we see Heatran into a Trevenant, so a great lead matchup for me. The opponent's going to say swap into Galarian Stunfisk. Now of course I'm taking double super effective damage from the mud shots, but I'm also hitting full super effective damage with the fire damage, so I land the Magma Storm. Now I'm going to swap into my Giratina. I can live anything they throw. They full send the Earthquake, and now I can just Shadow Claw, farm them all the way down. So let's see what the opponent wants to do. They're going to wait out their Switch Lock as long as possible, come in with the Trevenant, and here I thought I could probably go for 2 Ominous Winds, but no, actually I'm just going to full send the Shadow Ball once again. Not going to bait. Would I have made it to back-to-back Ominous Winds? I don't know. I don't really care either. We're going to come in with the Heatran here, and the opponent swaps into Registeel, so they were triple weak to fire. Very odd decision here, with Skeledirge actually being pretty common. Of course, like previously, fire is not that common in the meta, but these days fire is pretty good because Incinerate is such a good fast move. But either way, this is looking like it is wrapped up, and the opponent recognizes that, so they just concede the match there. So GG's to the opponent there. Into next game we see Lantern in the lead, so once again going to save swap into my Giratina, and we are going to see the opponent's going to stay in initially, then swap quite late into their Gligar. I don't know if they were trying to catch a move there or if they're just banking a Surf for when the Heatran comes back in, but either way we full send the Shadow Ball once again. This time they let it go through, but it is a non-Shadow Gligar, so that's actually not going to threaten to KO, and I don't think I'll be able to fully Shadow Claw farm them down either, so we're going to go for an Ominous Wind on the CMP tie. The opponent's going to use their shield there, and I'm just going to let the move go through. We can come in with Heatran, get the Fire Spin farm down, and of course an Earth Power will be hitting for super effective damage up against the Lantern, but I know they've already got energy banked on the Lantern, so I'm going to swap straight away into my Rayquaza. The opponent is going to overfarm. This could be a Thunderbolt, so I will respect the damage here. The opponent is going to full send the Thunderbolt there, and now we're going to go for a Breaking Swipe just before they make it to the next charge move. Breaking Swipe is going to go unshielded by the Lantern, and they do make it to one final charge move. I'm going to shield this up just for the damage anyways. It is another Thunderbolt, and the fact that they weren't swapping there means that I was expecting it's probably something quite weak to the Rayquaza in the back, and it's a Poliwrath, so not ideal for me, of course. Heatran not going to have a great matchup, but they don't commit to the full counter farm down. Instead, they go for the Icy Wind, and that will allow me to make it to an Earth Power. This is neutral damage, it is non-stab, but Earth Power from this range takes out the Poliwrath, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to the opponent there. Into the next game we see Heatran into yet another Lantern. So once again, going to swap into my Giratina. The opponent's going to be a little bit slow to swap out, but they swap into a Trevenant. Now this is the one time where I have baited. I've gone for the Ominous Wind, and they actually let that go through, so bit awkward there. We're just going to shield this anyways. I will be able to maintain alignment, which is good, but I'm in range where they can probably just go for a Surf and then fully Spark farm me down, which isn't ideal because Rayquaza, obviously being part flying, means I am taking neutral damage from the electric typing, so not going to be great here. I'm going to go for the Shadow Ball. Possibly could have baited here. It's pretty obvious that I full send the Shadow Ball as they now shield, and we now make it to an Ominous Wind at the last second, but this really isn't going to do that much damage up against the Lantern. We're now going to come in with the Rayquaza. I will respect the damage here, I believe. Yep, going to shield at the last second. It is the Thunderbolt, and I should just be able to fully Dragon Tail, farm them down. They don't make it to another Thunderbolt, which is huge, but they've got a Clodsire in the back, and if they are running Stone Edge, Well, I mean, honestly, if we get hit by a Sludge Bomb, it's still going to be game over for the Rayquaza. So I swap into my Heatran here, basically just try and force the opponent to throw as soon as possible, get to the Magma Storm on the CMP tie. But I just don't think this is going to be enough here. They go for the Earthquake, one-shotting Heatran, as that is double super effective. I need a debuff, but even then, I don't think it's going to be enough for me. We go for the Breaking Swipe, no debuff, and the opponent will make it to a charge move. Unless they go for an Earthquake here, this will be game over, and it is the Stone Edge, unfortunately, taking out the Rayquaza, and unfortunately, we do lose that game. But GG's to the opponent there. Into next game, we see a Shadow Charizard in the lead. So I've seen a few Shadow Charizard now, actually. Maybe making a resurgence this season, or in the final week anyways. But we're going to shield this, of course. Could be a Blast Burn. The opponent does full send the Blast Burn. Now, I could be running Stone Edge. I do farm to at least the Stone Edge potential. So this way, I'm going to be grabbing a shield from the opponent. I'm actually going to go for a second Magma Storm straight away, as we do get there 2 turns before they make it to the next Blast Burn. Now I'm going to swap into my Giratina. I was hoping to catch a Blast Burn, but of course, pretty unlikely that they would throw on alignment straight away. They can go for the back-to-back Dragon Claws. Honestly, I'm just going to sacrifice Giratina here. I'm hoping that they don't have a great response to Dragon types, which is why they threw the back-to-back Dragon Claws there. So now I'm going to come in with my Rayquaza, go for the Dragon Tail farm down, and they come in with a Trevenant. Now this is a matchup where having Aerial Ace would be great, because Aerial Ace would probably KO from this range, but unfortunately Breaking Swipe doesn't. They're only going to get off a Seed Bomb though, which is quite strange. I'm not sure why they're throwing that. They're going to come in with a Lantern, which isn't ideal for me, but I can go for a Breaking Swipe now, and this will put them into range where a Earth Power will certainly be enough damage to KO, and the opponent throws on alignment, so this is perfect for me. I can safely shield up the Surf. I'm going to barely outpace them to the Earth Power, 1 turn before they make it to Surf number 2, and Earth Power takes out the Lantern. I can Fire Spin, farm down the Trevenant, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to the opponent there. Into next game, another Lantern in the lead. What a surprise there. We're going to swap into the Giratina, and the opponent is once again going to stay in initially, this time swapping into Crocodile. And this is a matchup where it's not nearly as dominant as against the Skeledirge, because of course we are only hitting full neutral damage, and as well the opponent's going to shield that move there. So another game where I probably could have baited, but I don't bait. We're now going to go for another Shadow Ball here. No baiting at all right now, and Shadow Ball is going to grab the final shield from the opponent. We will still win this in all even shield scenarios, but obviously could have made it a lot more comfortable if we went for those baits there, but it doesn't matter. I'm going to go for 4 Shadow Claws here before throwing, making sure the Incinerate damage doesn't register. We take out the Crocodile, and the opponent's got a Bomber Snow in the back. Now I make a stupid play here. I catch the move onto my Heatran. I was thinking Heatran can catch this, and then I don't think a Surf will take me out, but Surf doesn't KO from full health, but with that chip damage, Surf will now be enough damage to take out my Heatran here. And unfortunately, Rayquaza is just so glassy that we're not going to be able to live a Thunderbolt very comfortably. We're going to come in anyways. The opponent did overfarm there, so this will be a Thunderbolt. Thunderbolt is nearly going to take us out, and we don't get the new mechanic. We don't get off the Breaking Swipe. And if we got off the Breaking Swipe there, we could have probably just farmed them down there and thrown a Shadow Ball into a Bomber Snow. But either way, Shadow Ball probably doesn't quite take them out anyways. So I tried to go for the boost there because that was my only win condition. We don't get the boost. We don't take out the Lantern. And unfortunately, we don't take that game. But GG's to that opponent there. Into next game, we see Wigglytuff in the lead, so an amazing lead for me. They're going to say swap into a Azumarill, and now this is a little bit tricky here, because if the opponent really fights, they might be able to flip this in the 2 shield scenario, just going straight Ice Beam, but it's going to be very close. So let's see. We're now going to go for a Shadow Ball. I shielded up the first charge move. When you are fighting for switch, it makes sense to shield the first move there, just because otherwise, if they land the Ice Beam and they put us pretty low, they can probably just double shield and fully bubble farm me down, whereas now they do have to continually throw these charge moves to get rid of me. Now, I'm going to go for a Ominous Wind just before they make it to the next charge move here, and this, of course, will be enough to take them out from this range, but they are going to double shield. Can we live the Ice Beam from this range? We need switch advantage, and we do just barely live that. We get the Shadow Claw farm down. Honestly, couldn't have been any closer than that, and now we do have switch advantage, but it turns out it actually doesn't really matter because they've got a Confusion Cresselia in the back, so Heatran would completely wall the entire team here right now. So we are going to let this move go through. Actually, this is slightly favorable for us because this will allow us to get slightly more Fire Spins to farm them down, and then we can throw back-to-back Magma Storms into Cresselia. Of course, they will have debuffed my attack, so it's not going to do as much damage to the Cresselia, but we can throw back-to-back Magma Storms, and we do have a Breaking Swipe loaded on my Rayquaza. But you're going to see it actually doesn't matter, as the opponent's going to go for a full Confusion farm down, which is their win condition. I mean, if we didn't have a charge, we load it on my Rayquaza, but it doesn't matter as we make it to a 3rd Magma Storm, taking out the Cresselia, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to the opponent there. Into the next game, we see another Azumarill in the lead. So going to say swap into my Giratina. The opponent's going to stay in once again, and I make a mistake here. This obviously is just an Ice Beam. I thought since they're staying in, I might as well shield this up. And I'm also going to overfarm here, and the opponent swaps into Licky Tongue. So if I just threw after one Shadow Claw, like I did in previous games, we'd have still been okay here. But unfortunately now I've used a shield, and they've got a Pokemon that they can just fully lick farm me all the way down against. So I'm going to go for the Ominous Wind here, hoping for a boost or something. And honestly, I don't know why I go for the Shadow Ball here, because all I'm doing is stalling the Switch Clock so that I can swap back into my Heatran. But I mean, it doesn't matter. This is basically game over. My only win condition will be landing a Dragon Ascent up against that Azumarill, because I'm already down a shield. I'm also going to be losing Switch advantage, and it's just not looking good because they've also got an Azumarill that's got basically full health remaining as well. So not looking good. I'm going to overfarm as much as possible. I was hoping to make it to back-to-back Magma Storms, but it looks like they would have licked farm me down. So they can go for the Bubble Farm down. We're going to come back in with the Giratina here, and if I went for an Ominous Wind, I actually could have made it to a Shadow Ball here. But unfortunately, we're going to let the Ice Beam go through because I need to save a shield for my Rayquaza. My only hope is if they swap into something super weak to Rayquaza. But they were absolutely going to destroy me anyways, as they had a Powder Snow, Shadow, Alone, and Sandslash in the back, and they're able to take me out very comfortably and take that game. So GG's to that opponent there. Not a lot I could have done, but that's how it goes sometimes. Into the next game, we see quite an annoying Pokemon to deal with for this team in the form of Dunsparce. Not super common these days, was a lot stronger back when you had like Noctowl and Trevenant being very common in the meta, as well like Lantern of course is still very dominant in the meta, but it doesn't core break teams like it used to. And here we're going to go for the Fire Spin farm down, not able to get it, so instead I swap into my Giratina. Once again, you could argue that I could have tried to swap into my Rayquaza since it would be double resisted, but I feel like Giratina is just slightly safer. Of course, if they've got another normal type Pokemon in the back, then that's probably not going to be the case, but I mean, it's quite unlikely that they'd have normal in the lead and then in the back as well. But yeah, of course, I know my Heatran would lose CMP up against a Trevenant, or at least I'm pretty sure it would. So I'm actually just going to fully sacrifice my Rayquaza since we've got so much energy on the Heatran, and let's see what that third and final Pokemon is. And luckily for me, it is a Venusaur. Heatran, probably the hardest answer to a Venusaur, as we double resist everything they can possibly throw. Well, I guess, of course, Skarmory is in the same boat, but we're going to go for the Magma Storm, taking out the Venusaur, and I'm able to Fire Spin, farm down the Dunsparce, and take that game. So GG's to the opponent there. Into the next game, another Whiscash in the lead. So going to say swap into my Giratina. The opponent is going to stay in, probably going to chip and then dip into like their Skarmory or whatever their save swap is for this team. But no, they're actually going to stay in with the Whiscash. I did wait one turn there, making sure they weren't able to catch the Shadow Ball onto something else. But the opponent is going to shield that up. So once again, another opportunity where I could have baited, but I didn't. Honestly, probably should have just gone with Dragon Pulse on this Giratina because I never sent the Ominous Wind. And once again, we're going to overfarm here, throwing just before they make it to the surf. Full send the Shadow Ball, and the opponent actually lets it go through this time around. So let's see what that third and final Pokemon is, or if they come back in with the Whiscash, and they actually come in with Frostlass. So Giratina once again going to full send the Shadow Ball, and we take out the Frostlass as well. And now this is going to be game over. I've learned from my mistakes in the past, knowing that they're always going to send that Scald first, so I might as well shield it up because then they can start baiting with Mud Bombs, but it doesn't matter. We're going to be easily able to take out the Whiscash, except for the fact that the game has now frozen once again at the end of the battle. And I think this was one of the battles where I wasn't credited with a win, which is really annoying because this is quite a comfortable win in the end. But I mean, I don't really care too much. I've already hit Legend. This season, the Elo gains don't really matter at this point in the season, but GG's to that opponent anyways. I hope they did at least get credited with the win there, because if we both lost, according to the journal, then that's going to suck. But into the next game, we're going to see a Mantine in the lead. They swap into a Vigoroth, which is, I mean, I guess it makes sense because Mantine, unless they're running Bubble Beam, can't actually throw anything up against Heatran, whereas Heatran would typically run Stone Edge, or at least that's its preferred moveset on PvP, although I think Earth Power is probably better for it, just because you can hit Pokemon like Poliwrath or Whiscash for neutral damage. Otherwise, the Stone Edge and Magma Storm and Fire Spin would all be resisted up against those Pokemon. And here we are finally going to go for a Dragon Ascent. We do connect, but unfortunately the opponent's got a Diggersby in the back, and Diggersby is like the worst core breaker for these two Pokemon, so this is not looking good for us whatsoever. I'm going to shield this up, of course. Scorching Sands would one-shot us. They get the attack drop, so I'm actually going to bank the energy that I've got, swap into my Giratina, and my only win condition here is if I somehow grab both shields with my Giratina, but that's just not going to happen. I do farm to, I believe, a Dragon Pulse. I'm going to go for the Ominous Wind because another potential win condition for me is if I get a boost. But at this point, they're going to be able to go for a Scorching Sands here, and it won't quite take me out either, so they will just be able to fully farm me down. I've obviously got no shields remaining either, so they probably just farm to 100 energy. Scorching Sands doesn't take me out either. They can get the farm down, and there's no point me throwing here because they've got 2 shields remaining anyway, so Scorching Sands easily takes out the Heatran, and we do unfortunately lose that game. So GG's to the opponent there. Into next game, an amazing lead leading into Skarmory. The opponent's going to save swap into Licky Tongue. Now, I don't have a great response, so I'm actually just going to stay in, at least initially, and let's see what the opponent wants to do. We're going to go for a Magma Storm. Magma Storm does connect, and we are going to see the opponent throws on alignment here, so not great from them. They also go for a Body Slam, which is, of course, resisted. Everything, or at least the charge moves, are resisted from Licky Tongue. We're going to go for Magma Storm number 2. We're now going to swap Catch the Move onto my Giratina. The reason I do that is just preserve enough health on my Heatran to still be very comfortable up against that Skarmory. And let's see, the opponent's going to come back in with the Skarmory. I'm going to farm up here, throw just before they make it to a Sky Attack or a Brave Bird, and Shadow Ball is going to connect up against the Skarmory. I assume they're just going to save both their shields for the Whiscash. I'm actually going to shield my Giratina here because I know that if I just let it go down, come in with my Heatran, they can probably farm me down with the Whiscash there before I'm able to swap out. So instead, I just preserve the health on the Giratina, grab the shield with a bait there with the Ominous Wind. I mean, it didn't really matter at that point because it is Rayquaza that will be able to take out the Whiscash from this range. But here, we're going to go for a Breaking Swipe. I let the first one go through. It doesn't really matter. They can let the Breaking Swipe go through, and I will just be able to fully Dragon Tail, farm them down. Well, actually, I'm going to let the Scald go through, come in with my Heatran, go for the Fire Spin, farm down, and this time we are actually able to take out the Whiscash there, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to the opponent there into possibly the final battle of this video. We lead into a Jellicent. I'm going to save swap into my Giratina, and I don't really like throwing on CMP here just because it's quite an obvious time for them to either try and make a catch there or not throw and then get an extra Hex in. But either way, it looks like the opponent is core broken by Giratina as they come in with a Shadow Victory Bell. Once again, I could just go for these Ominous Winds. I don't know why I'm going for the Shadow Ball. They're going to double shield. It's a Shadow Victory Bell. Shadow Victory Bell always plays for switch advantage. And they will make it to a charge move here. I think they could have just Razor Leaf farmed me down, but they didn't know that. They wanted to be sure. But this one, I'm actually going to come in with my Rayquaza here because I know, of course, that my Heatran isn't going to have the best matchup up against the Jellicent. So they come back in with the Jellicent. I know this is just going to be a Surf, so I'm going to let it go through. I'm thinking, yeah, we easily tank this. I can probably farm them down. And then I'm like, actually, these Hexes are chunking, so I'm going to play it safe. I'm just going to go for the Breaking Swipe. Breaking Swipe takes them out, and they've got a Quagsire in the back, so I possibly could have just farmed to the Dragon Ascent there and nuked them fully, but I didn't realize it was going to be a Quagsire. I wanted to throw straight away just to make sure I got the move off, but doesn't really matter. We can shield up the Mud Bomb, go for one extra Dragon Tail, go for the Breaking Swipe. Breaking Swipe isn't quite going to take them out there, so I swap into my Heatran, and once again the game freezes, and I didn't get credited with a win, which really sucks, but it is what it is. So that's going to be it for today's video. If you did enjoy it, please make sure you leave a like, leave a comment letting me know, and as well, don't forget to respond to the question of the day if you haven't done so already. And if you want to see more content like this in the future, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications. That way, you'll be notified whenever I upload a new video. But with that being said, thank you all so much for watching today's video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.